Got it.
Oh,
Hello. It's good to see you.
yes. Can you introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about what you do?
Yes. So my name is Megan Carlson. I am the director of administration for a startup biotechnology company. I am basically the director of chaos, work in a very ambiguous environment. Can be really relaxed and also really stressful at the same time. So that is that is my life right now. I also have a dog daycare and boarding out of my house that I do through Rover, and that has been a really positive for my life, having dogs, but it also can be kind of a stress point. So, yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And could you tell me how many sessions have you had with me now of somatic soul work?
7, right? I think.
I think it's 8 or
7
9.
or 8 sessions. 9.
It's at least 8, if not 9. Yeah.
Probably 9. I think.
Yeah. Because
7. 8. Yeah. It is 9 sessions.
And then what was the original reason that you felt you wanted to receive a session?
The original reason for reaching out to receive your healing and have at least a few, like committing myself to a few sessions, 3 or 4 at minimum, was because I had been through a tremendous amount of trauma over the last 10, 15 years, kind of sporadically. I'm very good at compartmentalization, but I was still grieving and couldn't figure out how to get past the grief. Talk therapy wasn't doing it. Socialization, forgetting about it, pushing it down. It would just always come back at really inopportune moments. And I wasn't able to let my emotions out in order to let it go. I would literally feel myself swallowing them. I would never have been able to cry in this moment before. So being able to really feel my feelings, and process them, and kind of recognize them, acknowledge them. That was what I wanted, what I needed to be able to kind of move on from everything that's been going on for me for a very long time. So
yeah,
that's why I came to you. I needed something more. Just talk therapy and socialization, compartmentalization, and swallowing my emotions.
Yeah. And it's really beautiful. You're actually demonstrating how you're able to show up and feel and release now, right in this interview.
Yeah. Where's my box of tissue?
All right. And could you tell me what it was you think was the source of your block and what was causing all of those issues?
Sure. I think that it was a lot of different things that kind of compounded. There was a brief period of time, probably about 2.5 to 3 years ago now, probably about 2.5, where they say that bad things happen in threes. And I had been with someone for kind of on and off for about 10, 11 years. And we had a very significant breakup. And so that was one thing. And my dog, who was 8 years old, very otherwise healthy. I had 2 Boston Terriers. One was 15, one was 8, and the 15-year-old had congestive heart failure, was getting older, was very sure that he was going to be the one to pass when eventually these things started to fail. And it turned out that all of a sudden, within 2 weeks' time, my 8-year-old, her name was Mika. She was spunky and so much fun and just like the light of my life. She stopped wanting to get out of bed and she lost a lot of weight. And it turned out that she had been living with cancer for about a year and a half, and her kidneys had finally failed on her. And when I took her to the vet, they told me that if I had not taken her that day, that she would have passed home alone. And that was devastating. We ended up putting her on a warm IV treatment and did a few things to help kind of make her more comfortable and to elongate the last couple days of her life so that we could say our goodbyes. And so I hope it's okay to go into this story, but she went to the vet. It had been raining for like 7 straight days and was supposed to continue raining for a few more days. And I remember being at the vet and just like begging, asking, for one more nice night for her, and took her home. And it stopped raining. The skies cleared up. There was a gorgeous sunset. So we went for a walk, our last little walk. Took her to kind of say goodbye to her favorite park and all the squirrels that she used to chase. And there was a rabbit that was on the way home and she was really excited. So I set her down, and as much as she could, she kind of like waddled towards the rabbit to try and get it. And then like her little butt fell and she looked back at me. She was like, "Mom, I can't do it." So scooped up and got to give her some kisses, and we fell asleep together, and she just didn't wake up the next morning. So it was very peaceful. She died in my arms, but it was so shocking. And was definitely really depressed for a few months about that. And then the breakup happened a few months later. And then a few months after that, somebody who I had been working with, who became very important to me, was in my day-to-day life. And, we started interacting socially and saw a lot of potential for what our lives could look like. And he was supposed to come over and help me to landscape one Saturday morning. And he had a very long day because we would wake up at 3 a.m. to go to the gym, and he just didn't stop. And he went home to see his family to do a car exchange. And he drove downtown to spend time with his friends. And then one of his friends offered to have him stay at their apartment. He was tired. He didn't have, I think he had, maybe one beer, but he ended up falling asleep on his way home. He said, "I needed to get home because I need to be up early to help Megan." And he fell asleep on his way home on the exit ramp. But he was less than a mile from home, and he crashed into the wall, died instantly. And I've always known that it's not my fault, because, he made his own choice to drive home that night. But I also know that, he was doing that because he cared about me and he wanted to be on time for me. He wanted to be there for me.
Right.
And
just because you know something in your head doesn't mean your emotions align with what you know in your head. Yeah.
Exactly. And that was something that really weighed on me in a way that I couldn't quite comprehend. And from an emotional perspective, when you say that, for sure, I definitely, I feel it.
Yeah.
Body and in my soul, and that I was really kind of pushing that down, and not allowing myself to, I mean, tried as I might to have grieved from it. I got to a certain point and couldn't let certain things go. And I think that really, it took a long time for it all to really build up. But from that time is when I realized that I didn't know how to be happy on my own. And having gone through the breakup, I mean, it was 10 years. So it was like, I lost my dog. I felt like I was losing my identity. Then I lost the person that I thought I could keep at least an identity with, and, you know, some form of structure and train of thought and lifestyle. And then it all just got ripped away from me. And
yeah,
it's a lot of loss in a very short period of time. And, you know, and then other things kind of came after the fact, new information about what had happened during the time that I was in a relationship, but not quite in a relationship, and just different betrayals that I aware until later. So it's like things just keep getting compounded. Truths come out, you know, I mean, they just do over time. And I think that it just got to a point where I was so completely overwhelmed with different emotions and grief that it was just stuck. It was literally like a block inside of my chest and my heart that like I couldn't break through, and I didn't know how to do it. So
how long was that there?
oh God. Well, I mean, I would say that I really recognized it about 6 months before we started working together. And prior to that, because it had been it's been 2.5 years. So 2 years of that, I was pushing it down, compartmentalizing, focusing on different things, my day-to-day life. Like, there were definitely moments and months of depression and of not wanting to get out of bed. And after my friend passed away in the car accident, we were workout buddies. So I couldn't even drive to the gym or past the gym without completely breaking down, going home. And then when I finally started to feel like I could drive past, I could look at it, I could walk in the door and not feel that way, COVID hit. So, you know, then the gym closed down, and I was like, fuck it, that's a sign. I'm just gonna stay in this level of sorrow and depression and like fuck you-ness of the world, I guess.
No.
But I was able to like push it on to other things. And, you know, I mean, my job was still really good. I didn't get let go during the pandemic. So I've always been the type of person who I look to the positive and I look for all of the beauty that's in life. And so it's almost a problem, because when I'm in a really terrible situation, I still look at that little itty bitty bit that's positive and hold on to that, and don't really process all of the other things and get rid of them. I just kind of like hold on to them and like ignore them. I like, you know,
Right.
little.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a balance. We need both, because you know, sometimes people will do the opposite. They'll go and they'll be kind of stuck in the grief, and they'll just stay grieving and never see the good. And then but then also the opposite can happen with like what happens with you is like people stay in the good and they don't see and they don't deal with the bad, and that's where I come in. That's what I'm really good at. So
Yeah, you are.
Can you describe a little bit of just you mentioned stress several times earlier. Could you just talk about your stress levels and how they were before versus after receiving the somatic soul work?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've never considered myself a person who really actually stresses out about things. I tend to have a very logical perspective about what's happening. And then I move through that process of swallowing and compartmentalization. And I remember specifically going to an acupuncturist because I was trying all different things, and went to an acupuncturist, and he was like, "Oh, so, tell me what you're going through. Tell me what your stressors are, this or that." I was like, "Oh, I have no stress in my life. This is going on." And then he just asked like a very few poignant questions. And I was like, "Oh my God, I have so much stress in my life." And before I started working with you, it had gotten to the point where I literally felt anxious, just waking up and being awake. Like, okay, I have to work out. I have to work with the dogs. I have to do this. I have all of these things that are on my to-do list. I have my house that's still somewhat unpacked and a mess. I've been in this house for 2 years, and I have 2 rooms that are still not undone and like ready, if you will, for company. And so all of these little things, I would just wake up and they would just, it was like an explosion in my mind. And it was too much for me to even really be able to get anything done. My days weren't productive. I felt nervous and anxious about pretty much anything and nothing, which I had never experienced before. It had gotten to a point where for the last 6 months, I would just wake up and kind of like freak out about my day without anything having happened yet. And usually I would be very methodical and like capable of just getting things done, working through whatever that task list was or whatever was on my plate, and getting done and feeling productive and happy and positive, and like go to bed each day and things were great. But that stopped. I had a huge blockage. I don't know what it was exactly, but I couldn't do that anymore. Talking through things, having friends offer to help, I was very appreciative, but I didn't even know how they could help me. And finally, I had a friend who told me about what it is that you do out. Like I kind of had an idea, but he was just like, the only thing that I can think of to do to actually help you is to put you in touch with her, because it sounds like I can't physically do anything to help relieve these stresses. My love language is acts of service. So that was his desire, but I didn't even know where to start with being able to have him help me, because I was just so blocked. I was like, I don't even know what I need help with.
Yeah. And then, so it's a really hard place where you were, and then it sounds like it's shifted now. Could you describe how it's shifted? Like what's changed since then?
Everything. I don't wake up afraid of my day anymore. Even if I don't necessarily have exactly what the structure is for my day and how I'm going to be productive and what I'm actually going to achieve and get done that day, I don't wake up nervous, anxious, afraid of getting stuff done, which doesn't even make any sense. Like it was like my productivity was even blocked. Like I wanted to be productive, mm-hmm. but I couldn't even be. And now I don't feel that anymore. I feel calm. I look at the world as it's beautiful. Like whatever it is that's in front of me, even if it's a crazy situation, my perspective on it is much more calm, and I'm able to handle it again.
So great. You actually described a situation to me, the fender bender. Yeah, can you talk about that?
Yeah, there was a fender bender in front of my house, and the individual whose car got hit was like, just seemed very calm sort of in the moment, but then was saying things like, this is fucking up my whole world. My whole world is ruined for however many weeks that I have to deal with this now because of this accident. And I'm like, your bumper's like nicked. And the person who hit you, their car is definitely showing way more damage than yours. You are safe. She is safe. She has insurance. This will get dealt with. There's a process. And sure, it might not be something that anybody wants to have happen, but it's ruining your whole fucking day. Your whole world is just exploding, and like not even it's like the whole world is stopping now because your car got hit. And my whole mind was blown. Like the fact that that was that terrible. I mean, I remembered kind of sort of feeling like something like that would have ruined my day before my sessions, and like maybe it would have made me spiral out of control like this person was. But I was just like, dude, what?
Awesome. So much more calm. Let's shift and talk a little bit about what the experience of somatic soul work is like. Yeah.
Sure. Wonderful. It's very relaxing. It's very relieving. It's the experience itself. I would say that for me, I was, as you mentioned, in one of our kind of founding conversations, the fact that I was ripe, I was ready. I needed this. I wanted this. I would, have 2 glasses of wine and just start crying, and like my jaw would chatter, and I would just like think about all of these things that I had been holding on to for so long, and finally let them out, but only doing so in the privacy of my own home, myself, with a little bit of help. It wasn't something that I could do healthily without alcohol. And they say to only consume alcohol in celebration instead of in sorrow.
Right.
And I had heard that when I was kind of going through that, and I was like, okay, well, right now I need it as a facilitator, or desired it as a facilitator. I don't even know. Actually, that's a lie. I didn't desire it as a facilitator. It just happened.
I would say it could be used as a tool in that way, but at the same time, that's the exact type of behavior that could make someone reliant upon it. So it's a very scary tool to use.
Yeah. Yeah. And I recognized that, and I didn't want it to get to that point. And I would just not drink. I would be like, oh no, this is gonna, like, I'm just gonna start crying like a baby. So, yeah, a hungry baby. I was hungry. I needed more. I needed something. I needed something that I didn't have. And that's where you came in.
Yeah. So, like, what would someone, like, they arrive?
Yes. Yeah. Right. So the point, like, let me answer the actual question.
Yeah.
So the experience itself, so from like the actual experience was very quiet and relaxing, being able to lie down and having the chimes. What would you call it that you use?
Yeah, it's like singing bowls and chimes and different. Yeah.
So the ambiance that you provided really helped, as well as your coaching and guiding of breathing and listening to my body and paying attention, kind of turning my attention inward and only focusing on what it was that my body was sensing, what I was really feeling. And then your sense of touch, or not your sense of touch, but your touch, it was like pressing a release valve on a pressure cooker. I very clearly remember the very first session. not that far into it, there was a particular place on my neck, and this happened in many other sessions too, but that one particular place was literally like a pressure valve and just let it all out in such an intense way. The crying, the stuffy sinuses, the teeth chattering, and really intense for a few minutes. And then the crying and the stuffiness subsided because all of that emotion was just being released and gone. And then, but still the chattering, like the stress just kind of releasing from my jawline. That's the other thing too, is that I have always kind of dealt with sort of not quite diagnosed as TMJ, but just a tension in my jaw, some clicking, some popping, which has since subsided. And I definitely know that came from the fact that all of that everybody holds stress in different places, and mine is in my jaw a lot. And so being able to literally sit there and like chatter for half an hour, just such a physical and emotional release. I felt like I was on cloud 9 after the fact. I felt very calm, very at peace. Much like a good cry does, there's just this sense of utter euphoria. And like literally just kind of seeing everything as being like bright and okay and calm. So
I just want to voice here for anyone watching that this was exactly what you needed, but in a different circumstance. Like, I don't want people to be afraid to come to me because they might just like start bawling immediately. That not be what someone needs, but it was absolutely what you needed. So it was really beautiful that you were able to get that.
And it wasn't in every session.
That too.
At least some other, the second session, I don't think I cried at all. The third session I did a little bit more. And what I noticed too about the sessions was that depending upon who I interacted with, or how much alone time I had, or how much sleep I had that week, it would affect me either more or less. And it was exactly what I needed and what I wanted, right? Like I wanted it to happen, which is why I just bawled my eyes out,
So
for sure.
So you had both video call sessions and in-person sessions, and I wanted to ask, first I want to say it varies how people respond to the video call sessions. Some people it doesn't work as well with, some people it works even better than the in-person. Just describe a little bit your experience with the difference between the two.
Sure. I would say for me that having the sessions in person and based on your feedback, the sessions online were just as helpful. We had already gotten to a point where the sessions were not necessarily, supposed to be as intense as far as my release of emotions, or at least outward physical recognition of that. But with the online sessions, for anybody who's doing them, I would recommend making sure that you have natural light. And if you cannot, then have sort of a lamp in the distance that's more like a table lamp or a desk lamp rather than an overhead. Because the first time I had an overhead, and I remember feeling very distracted by that.
You're having trouble focusing.
Exactly. Yeah. And it was very helpful when you would call out to certain areas that needed my attention and my focus. And at one point I let you know that it was kind of distracting. And so you were doing that more. That really helped. But I felt a great sense of relief and calm, and much the same as someone might after a really great, either a workout or a yoga session or meditation or really great sleep, really great sex, just that just kind of that really nice, overwhelming, very calm sense and feeling. I always, after every session, remember being much more patient. And during my virtual sessions, I was spending time with my family, which is usually very stressful. And
Oh.
well,
Well, how'd it go with your family afterwards then?
it went great. It went great. I was able to communicate with them in a way that was not short and abrupt. They didn't annoy me quite so much. I mean, there's always these little tones that your family members use that you know what they're saying without saying it. And so instead of letting that get to me, I recognized that that was just their own stress and their own insecurity or whatever it was that they might be feeling, and that I didn't need to feel that because they were. I didn't let it penetrate me, which was really wonderful because that only ever escalates things. And I was able to then communicate with them in a way that helped them calm down from whatever the stressor might have been. Even if it was like, you're moving too fast, like don't rush me.
That's really awesome. Like it even like carries over into your family. That's so good. So good.
Yeah.
Do you feel there were any lessons that you learned or like a perception shift that you've had about yourself or the world because of this?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know quite what the yes, I'm much more myself. I feel pride in myself. I feel worthy of whatever it is that brings me happiness. And most, yes. I felt a lot of shame around happiness, that like I shouldn't feel happy, that I wasn't worthy of smiling and laughing and being joyful and finding joy in the things that I find joy in, because somebody else might not think that that's an appropriate way to be happy or to feel happiness or what have you. And I just don't care anymore.
I imagine that means you're much happier, yeah?
I am much happier. Yeah, I was at a
were to rate your happiness before the sessions and after, and overarchingly, what would the, like on a scale of 1 to 10, right?
Yeah.
Before, what would it be, and what would be the after number be?
I say before was definitely like a 2.5 or a 3. And I did a lot of things to try and be happy. I started watching dogs and like thinking about what it was that made me the happiest sans anybody else, that it wasn't me relying on somebody else's presence or interactions to make me happy. So what was it that I needed? And I remembered that my most favorite time in my life, and when I felt the most like genuinely raw, deep down happy, was when I was the GM of a dog daycare. And so I implemented that in my home and feel so utterly elated and happy and joyful when they're there with me. And there's still stress points, if there's new dogs, you're learning them and all that. And even with that, I was still really only at like a 2.5 or a 3.
Wow.
And now I'm like 8.5, 9. Like, I know that there are still some things that I need to work on and work through, but I'm real close. So
cute. Awesome. So glad to hear it. All right. And then just any last messages for someone who's considering getting a somatic soulwork session?
Yeah, be open. It takes different forms for different people as far as their reactions and what it will do for you and how it will change, whether it be your daily life, your emotions, your needs. But not letting, because I have referred a couple of people that are all dealing with situations and emotional garbage that is still holding them up. And so know that you're worthy. Know that, this is priceless. So even if you're in a financial hardship of your life, it's worth it. It is so worth it. Like I can't even say, I can't even right now.
Oh, thank
It
you.
is like, yeah. Well, and that was, so one of the individuals that I referred, that was her hang up, was financials.
Mhm.
And the other has been, the emotional blockage is still just so blocked that he just like can't even figure out to find the time to put the words to have a conversation. And I know what both of those things are like. And find somebody else who's in your life who believes in you, and help let them encourage you. Let me encourage you, whoever you are. I love you. Harisa Alessandra loves you. And like, we're like, it helps. It will be better. Whatever it is that you need, it will come through if you want it. And you can find somewhere within you to relinquish to, I need this. I don't know how it's going to better me, but I know that it'll better me. And even if not, I'm going to just give it a shot. Do it.
Yeah. Well said. Thank you very much. And then on that note, if anyone wanted to talk to you more about somatic soul work, just to get a little bit of idea, how could they contact you?
Any way they like. I would love for them to be able to contact me. So do I just say what my email, my number, and
you could say Facebook if you wanted. Facebook Messenger might be easier if you want a little more anonymity, or you could say your number if you're down for that. Whichever.
I just don't know if you'll be spammer or not. I'm just kidding. Oh.
So, are you still there?
You're freezing.
Oh no.
Hello, can you hear me now?
I can hear you. I've heard you the whole time.
Okay, all right.
So do you just want to say your full name so that people can find you on Facebook, or do you want to do your number? Or
so on Facebook, I am Red, like the color, RED, Carlson, CARLSEN. So not my real name. It's a nickname. It's a great story. For those who want to know, you can ask me about it too. Only after your first session, though. I won't divulge where that nickname came from until after. You've seen Hetty, so
thank you for hooking people for me.
Like let's see. My handle on Instagram is a little bit more complicated. Well, it's not that complicated, but let me see. Let me pull that up. Who am I? I am capital ABC dot capital L lowercase OVE. So ABC love, ABC capital dot love. Yeah, it says, my friends call me Red. So you'll know from my little purple yoga mat and colorful socks and
All right. Well, thank you so much, Megan. This has been lovely. You've given so much info. Excellent. So
thank you. Thank you so much for everything that you've done. And I hope that this helps. I hope that even if just one person sees this and is like, maybe I should reach out.
Yeah.
You should. Everybody should, honestly. Well, and that's the other thing too, is that like, even if you're not going through something that's like terribly traumatic and you feel like you're so stupid stuck and like you're like, oh well, you know, I'm fine. You're probably not. I'm just
Life
kidding.
is pretty traumatic.
Everybody can benefit from it. Everybody can, because everybody has some sort of stress in their life that they might not recognize or know. And everybody can be happier.
Yeah.
Everybody can be healthier. I mean, I think that all sorts of mental and emotional, you know, processing is always helpful and beneficial. So
Yeah.
everyone can take advantage. So
Excellent.
yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.